our next topic, that is tablet pre-formulation aspects. What is pre-formulation? Pre, it means before, and formulation, it means manufacturing. So the study about the tablet dosage form before the formulation. Okay. So what is the definition of pre-formulation? Pre-formulation is investigation of physicochemical properties. It includes physical as well as chemical properties of drug compound that could affect the formulation development of a dosage form. Okay. So what are the objectives of pre-formulation? It means what is the importance or what is the use of tablet pre-formulation aspects. So first, to develop the effective dosage form. See, if we are studying about the formulation before the manufacturing of that tablet dosage form, so obviously the upcoming product will be effective. Okay. Second, important to have an understanding of physical description, because as we stated in pre-formulation definition, it will include physical as well as chemical properties. So important to have an understanding of physical description of drug substances before dosage form development. Okay. Next, there are some characterizations. First is physical characterization. Physical, it will include the physical nature of the dosage form. Okay. So in that, first point is organoleptic characteristics. In organoleptic characteristics, color, odor, taste of the new drug. So color may be off-white, cream, yellow, tan, shiny. Odor may be pungent, sulfurous, aromatic, fruity, or it may be odorless. Taste may be acidic, bitter, tasteless, sweet. Okay. Second point is bulk characteristics. In bulk characteristic, first point is particle size. Particle size, in that we are taking example of griseofulvin. See, particle size is depends on the solid form of drug. So the bioavailability of the drug is affected. How? See, if the particle size is small, then the surface area for the contact between the solvent and that particle get increases, so the absorption of that drug increases. If the absorption increases, then it will affect to ADME of that particular drug, that is absorption, distribution, metabolism and excretion of the drug. Okay. So particle size distribution, by reducing particle size we can increase the surface area of the drug, which leads to enhance the absorption of the drug. Second point is powder flow property. Powder flow property, it includes angle of repose, porosity, bulkiness, two types of density, that is tap density, bulk density. If the powder flow property is not in standard condition, then it will affect to the weight uniformity of the tablet. Okay. So it directly affect the weight uniformity of the tablet. See, if the powder flow property is not good, then we can add any substance to increase the powder flow property. So the example of that substance is microcrystalline cellulose. We can also call it as MCC. Or we can convert that powder into the granule via granulation. And as we know, the flow property of granulation is compulsory higher than the flow property of that particular powder. But sometime the flow property of granule is not standard. So what we can do, we can add one substance which is called as glidant, so the flow property of that granule also get increased. See here, if the drug is identified poorly flowable, then we can solve the problem by selecting appropriate excipient, that is microcrystalline cellulose, and in some cases we pre-compress or granulate it to improve the flow property. Example, angle of repose. So the angle of repose of any powder should be in between 25 degree to 45 degree. Okay. Then next is density. Density, first is bulk density. Bulk density, in this what we are doing, we are taking simply the powder, known weight of powder sample, into the measuring cylinder and observe the value. So the what will be the density formula? Density is equal to mass upon volume. We know the mass of that particular solute divided by the volume of the powder, which is seen in measuring cylinder, observe in measuring cylinder. Okay, so we can easily get the bulk density. But in tap density, we are applying some kind of force. Okay, so in tap density, what we are doing, we are taking the known weight of sample, powder sample, in measuring cylinder, and we can apply, and we are applying some force by tapping. Normally we are tapping 100 times. This is the standard number of tapping. Okay, next is true density, that is the actual density of that particular solid. Next is granular density, that is the density of granules which are formed from that particular powder. Next is compressibility. Compressibility is what? Ability of powder sample to decrease the volume under the pressure. In tap density, we are applying some pressure, some force. So obviously the tap density is low as compared to bulk density. So compressibility is what? It can be defined as the ability of powder to decreasing volume under the pressure. Okay. Next is crystallinity. Crystallinity is what? It is the crystal is what? Crystal is the unique arrangement of atom, and it will used in the final purification of the drug, in which the different solvents we are using, generally solvents are volatile solvent. Okay. Application of crystallinity, it is used as final step of purification, in which the drug solvents are used, mostly volatile solvent. Next is polymorphism. As we know, many substances exist in more than one crystalline form with different space lattice arrangement. Example, chloramphenicol palmitate, which is antihistaminic category drug. So methods for the determination of polymorphism, how we can determine? By X-ray diffraction, NMR optical crystallography, FTIR, that is Fourier's transport IR, spectroscopy, thermal methods, DSC, melting point determination. Okay. Next is hygroscopicity. Hygroscopicity, it means what? Our substance, our powder get easily reactive with the water or moisture. Okay, so many substances are sensitive to water vapor and moisture. When this substance interact with the water, they retained water by surface absorption. Example is Maillard reaction. In Maillard reaction, see, if our drug contain the primary amine, okay, and if we are adding lactose in it, then there is browning of our dosage form. So this is one side effect. Okay, so next is deliquescence. Deliquescence, it is the bare a solid dissolve, okay, and saturated thin film of water on its surface after the solid dissolution. In this case, moisture is important factor which affects the drug stability and its final formulation. Okay, we can correlate hygroscopicity with delinquents. Next point is solubility analysis. So, solubility is the essential physical property of any solid drug. If the solubility of particular solid drug is low, then we can add by using different excipients. Okay, any drug should be water soluble for therapeutic efficacy. Okay, and it should be dissolved in water in the pH range of 1 to 8. See, if the solubility is less, then what we can do, how we can increase the solubility? So there are two fundamental properties, that is first is intrinsic solubility and second is dissociation constant. Intrinsic solubility is what? Normally solubility we are checking on in room temperature, but in intrinsic solubility we are taking two different temperature and we are observing or measuring the solubility of that particular drug at two different temperatures. Okay, so it is measured at two temperature which are differ by 4 to 5 degrees Celsius to ensure the good physical stability, and extended the short term storage and chemical stability until more definite data is available. Here we are measuring the intrinsic solubility. Okay, the solubility of weakly acidic and basic drug is the function of pH, because the solubility of any drug is depend on the pH. So it can be predicted by using the formula. There are two formulas, for one for weak acid and one for weak base. So S is equal to S0 1 plus K1 upon H plus. This is for weak base. We can consider as the intrinsic solubility of weak acid. Any drug which is weak acid, we can remember as weak acid. Acid, it means H plus. So H in this formula, which is for weak acid, H plus is in denominator, and in this for weak base H plus is in numerator. So S is equal to S0 1 plus K1 upon H plus. S0 is equal to S is equal to S0 1 plus H plus upon K2. Only one difference is here, that is for weak acid H plus is in denominator, for weak base H plus is in numerator. Okay, what is K1 and what is K2? K1 is the dissociation constant of weak acid and K2 is the dissociation constant of weak base. What is S1, SS intrinsic solubility? S0 is the solubility of particular drug at 0 degree Celsius. Okay, next point is ionization constant. Okay, it is denoted by pKa. Okay, so why ionization constant is important and it is included in the pre-formulation study? Because we all know that the unionized drug and ionized drug, especially we need unionized drug, because unionized drug are lipid soluble and hence it is rapidly absorbed, but ionized drug are water soluble, hence it does not rapidly get absorbed. So our drug should be unionized. So how it can get unionized? See, many drugs are either weakly acidic or weakly basic compound. In solution, it depends on the pH, and on depend on pH we can conclude as this drug is ionized or unionized. Okay, as we already discussed, unionized and ionized. Unionized are lipid soluble, rapidly absorbed. Ionized are water soluble, not rapidly absorbed. Okay, so the factor for absorption of weakly acidic or basic drug are the pH at the site of absorption, ionization constant, lipid solubility, and unionized drug. Okay, because ionization is directly proportional to lipid solubility. If that drug is ionized, then it is water soluble, and if that drug is unionized, then it is lipid soluble. Okay, and the whole is depend on the pH. As we know, the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, ionization constant can be calculated by using Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, that is pH is equal to pKa plus log unionized upon ionized for basic and ionized upon unionized for acidic. Okay, see, if our drug is weakly acidic, then if pKa is greater than 4.3, then it is highly absorbed. If pKa is between 2 to 4.3, then it is slowly absorbed. For weakly basic, if pKa is less than 8.5, then it is highly absorbed. If pKa is in between 9 to 12, then it is slowly absorbed. Okay. Quaternary ammonium compound cannot get absorbed. Note this point. But how we can determine the pKa? How we can determine the ionization constant? By potentiometric titration, by spectrometric determination, by dissolution rate method, and by liquid-liquid partition method. Okay. Next is partition coefficient. See, here how we can describe this. If we are taking one solid, huh? one glass contains one glass contains, see, this is one glass which contain one aqueous solvent and one organic solvent, and we are adding any solid powder which is our drug. So this solid powder get partially dissolved in organic solvent and partially dissolved in water. So in partition coefficient, what we are doing, we are measuring how much quantity of powder get dissolved in aqueous solvent and how much quantity of powder get dissolved in water. Okay, so see, lipophilicity of organic compound described in terms of partition coefficient. Partition coefficient is termed as log P, and this is the lipophilicity of the any drug compound, any organic compound. So it is the ratio of concentration of unionized compound at equilibrium between aqueous or organic phase. But this is the organic phase and this is the aqueous phase. Log P is equal to unionized compound in organic phase upon unionized compound in aqueous phase. Okay. Log P is, if log P का value is less than 1, then the drug is hydrophilic. If log P का value is greater than 1, then it is lipophilic. Okay. Various organic solvent. See, here we are compulsory taking water, but here we can change by any other organic solvent. So that organic solvent may be chloroform, ether, CCl4 carbon tetrachloride, octanol, isopropyl, myrosterate. Okay. So how we can determine the partition coefficient by Sheck flask method? In Sheck flask method, this is the flask. In that we are taking one organic solvent, one aqueous solvent. We are adding one our drug sample which is in solid state. Okay. Then after addition we are shaking. Then we will get the distribution of that powder material into aqueous solvent and organic solvent. Okay. Next is chromatographic method, countercurrent method, microelectromeric titration. Okay. Next is solubilization. Solubilization, this is the technique which is used to increase the solubility of the poorly soluble drug. Increase the solubility of the poorly soluble drug. So there are several methods to increase the solubility of drug. That is, one is if we are changing the pH, if we are changing the temperature, then if we can add co-solvent, then the solubility will increase. So these are the methods by which we can increase the solubility. First is change in pH, then co-solvent, then dielectric constant, then by adding surfactant, then by complexation, then chemical modification of drug, and then thermal effect. In that we can increase or decrease the temperature of solvent. Okay. Then redetermine effect of temperature of solubility of drug. It can be determined by measuring heat of solution. But how we can measure the heat of solution? By this formula, INS log S is equal to minus delta Hs upon R into 1 plus C upon T. R is R is universal gas constant. Hs is heat of solution. Delta represents change in heat of solution. S is molar solubility. C is concentration and T is absolute temperature. See, if we are changing the temperature, then the solubility also get changed. But generally temperature is directly proportional to the solubility. If we are increasing temperature, then the solubility of that drug also get increases. Okay. Next is common ion effect. It's simple. If there is presence of common ion in solvent, then the solubility get decreases. Okay. Then second is dissolution. Actually, what is dissolution? If we are taking any drug in the solvent, then this drug gets solubilized into solvent and we get one solution. This is dissolution. The transfer of molecular ion from solid, this is solid state, into solution, we are getting solution, is known as dissolution. In absorption process, it is the rate limiting step. If the dissolution is high, then the drug is in liquid form. If it is in liquid form, then it can be get easily absorbed. Okay. In absorption process, it is rate limiting step. Why? If dissolution occur very slowly, and because of this it is the rate limiting step. For absorption, dissolution is much important step. Okay. Dissolution is of two type. First is intrinsic dissolution and second one is particulate dissolution. So in intrinsic dissolution is what? See, in this the dissolution rate of solid in its own solution. This is intrinsic. Inside. It is described by Nernst equation. dC by dt is equal to AdCs minus C upon Hv. What is dC? dC is solute concentration, change in solute concentration. dt, change in temperature. A is the surface area of dissolving solid. D is the diffusion coefficient. Cs and C. Cs is solute concentration in diffusion layer. What is diffusion layer? If this is the solid, we are dissolving solvent, then this solid gets some one layer on that surface of the solid. This layer is called as diffusion layer, and the concentration of particular drug at this diffusion layer is Cs, and C is in bulk. Bulk, it means over here. Okay, and V is the volume of the dissolution area, and H is the diffusion layer thickness, the thickness of this layer. Okay, and second is particulate dissolution. It means what? Determine dissolution at different surface area to study influence of particle size, surface area, excipients. Okay.